Good evening. My name is Oleg Shikhman. I am the CEO and the founder of Theragy. Endoscopic surgeons are our target customers, and this event is a tremendous opportunity for me to present my company and our technology to the SAGES members. Thank you for inviting us. This is a great event. Theragy is a medical device startup. Could you please go back, please? Thank you. Theragy is a medical device startup that develops technologies that would allow endoscopic surgeons and gastroenterologists to treat complex GI tract conditions minimally invasively and avoid surgeries for millions of patients suffering from gastrointestinal cancer, GI bleeding, leaks, perforations, and other conditions. Our first product to market is the endoscopic clip that we call AREDA. This is a device with a delivery system that is mounted at the distal end of the endoscope. The delivery device opens the clip, allowing the tissue to be acquired before it is closed in a controlled fashion, gently compressing tissue under direct visualization. The system is designed for ease of deployment and precise placement of the clip in every case. We're currently working on multiple sizes in two different configurations. One is atraumatic and one with microspikes for increased tissue retention. AREDA is a very versatile closure device with a number of potential indications that include closure of mucosal, submucosal, and full thickness defects following the EMR, ESD, and EFTR procedures, hemostasis of upper and lower GI bleeding, repair of anastomotic and gastric leaks, closure of perforations and fistulae, treatment of hemorrhoids, as well as other potential indications. In this video demonstration, the scope is deployed, the clip is opened, and the tissue is pulled into the open clip using a flexible endoscopic grasper that was introduced through the working channel of the endoscope. The user has a chance to confirm the placement of the clip before the clip is closed and then released. Our significant competitive advantage is in our ability to re-engage, reopen, and if necessary, adjust the position of the clip to assure optimal closure results every single time. In this ex vivo demonstration, the user was able to deploy the clip, then re-engage, reopen it, and remove it in approximately 1 minute. This level of control, visualization, and adjustability that is offered by the AREDA clip cannot be matched by our competitors. These devices are easy to deploy. However, negative outcomes are commonly linked to misplacements, insufficient tissue capture, or inclusion of the impaired tissue. And if these clips are misplaced, the Avasco clip, for example, needs to be fractured, then removed, replaced with the new one before a new attempt will be made. And this is technically difficult, costly, and extremely time-consuming. While there's a number of different indications that we plan for the AREDA clip, our initial focus will be on a clip-assisted resection that we call a CARE procedure. In this procedure, the clip will be initially placed over the target lesion, essentially forming a pre-closure. The user will confirm the proper placement of the clip before a transmural end block resection will be performed. The precise placement of the AREDA, visual confirmation of the placement before the resection, and the ability to adjust the position will assure clean margins in every case. We're working on a number of concepts that will assure the secure and reliable closure. CARE procedure closely follows fundamental surgical principles and is significantly quicker and technically easier than traditional EMR, ESD, and EFTR procedures. There are over 1 million laparoscopic colorectal resections that are done globally. 600,000 of them are actually done by SAGES members. And a large number of these cases are actually done on benign and precancerous lesions. And we know that a lot of these cases, including early cancer cases, could be treated endoscopically. So for that reason, we see the AREDA clip and our CARE procedure as a substantial opportunity to shift colon resections from surgery to endoscopy. Once we make progress with the development of the reader clip, we will begin the development of other devices in our product portfolio. They include dynamic retraction device for advanced endoscopic manipulations, and this device is highly complementary to the reader clip and the CARE procedure, especially when we plan to work on larger size lesions. Other devices include single-use shape sensing catheter that will help users to avoid scope looping and reduce the rate of incomplete colonoscopies, especially in the tortuous anatomy. One other device also includes the tissue approximation device that will be especially useful for the full thickness defects. We're working hard to protect our intellectual property. We filed our initial PCT application in December of 2018, and that application covers multiple clip designs, the design of the delivery system, as well as the delivery methods. We since filed a number of provisional applications that cover the retraction device and the shape sensing catheter. And in the next couple of weeks, we'll be converting these provisional applications in the substantial PCT application. We also filed one additional provisional application on the new ideas and concepts for the clip itself. The Arida and other accessories are Class 2 devices and will require 510(k) clearance in the United States before these devices could be commercialized. Reimbursement for the EMR and control of bleeding is well established. And based on our research, the physicians are well reimbursed for the ESD and EFTR procedures, especially when the appropriate paperwork is provided to the payers to support the case. Our portfolio addresses a number of pretty significant segments of the endoscopic market. We are particularly excited about the projected growth of the minimally invasive procedures for colorectal cancer. That market is projected to double in the next couple of years, and a significant portion of this growth is actually attributed to an increasing interest in traction with the minimally invasive endoscopic approaches to treatment of colorectal cancer. Additional markets also include the GI bleeding and hemorrhoid treatment markets that are each approaching $1 billion. We are planning to approach the Arida development in 3 phases, and we are currently raising $1.5 million to cover the cost of that development, and we plan to complete this development in 24 months. When appropriate, Theragy will also raise additional funds for the development of other devices in our product development pipeline. We put together a pretty strong team. I'm a serial medical device entrepreneur with years of experience managing medical device startups, taking the devices from early stage concepts all the way to global commercialization. My team also includes clinical advisors and clinical consultant. Our clinical consultant has a specific experience in testing and evaluation of the clip type of devices in the ex vivo model, and we will count on him to support our regulatory work. Other people on our team include product development engineers with a very relevant experience and a regulatory consultant, and together we'll work hard to bring these technologies to market. This market is generally quite competitive with a number of major players focused on early interventions. We had the chance to discuss the Arida clip with pretty much all the major players in this market and received positive feedback. We believe that once we complete the development, obtain regulatory clearance for these devices, and actually do initial clinical evaluation in the field, we will be well positioned for an acquisition by one of these players. There's no question that the future of treatment of GI tract conditions that require interventions is in the therapeutic endoscopy and not surgery. Just like decades ago, laparoscopy took away cases from traditional open surgery, now we see that the endoscopy takes away cases from laparoscopy. We think that the Arida clip, our other devices, and the CARE procedure will be a great contributor to accelerate that process, and we look forward to collaboration with the SAGES members. And we hope that you share this vision for the company and this technology, and seeking your support in the fundraising for making this a reality. Thank you.
Oleg, thank you. Before we go to the questions, for those of you who are eligible voters, please check your email. You will get a voting link so that we can take those people who attended the Innovation Postgraduate course. They can get their votes in and vote for their favorites. And at this point, I will open it up to questions from the judges and anybody from the floor.
So thank you again for a beautiful presentation, very interesting device, and certainly a very potentially large market. You showed a very nice video where the clip was applied and then removed, but it was a pretty pristine field in a non-moving GI field. So I guess my question to you is the whole success of this device is predicated on its removability. And yet, in order to remove it, you need to get not one, but two prongs of your endoscope into those very small receptacles there, which seems somewhat challenging if you have a patient who's breathing and moving and potentially bleeding or oozing or peristalsing. And so my question is, in a live model, what percentage of the time are you actually able to remove them, and how much time is required to do that? And is that realistic, or is that prohibitive?
It's certainly a very legitimate question. The ex vivo models are easy. You use healthy tissue, and it's obviously nothing is moving. We are certainly looking at the ways to simplify this. And in our new iteration of the clip that we are working on right now, we're actually using larger features, larger geometry to allow the re-engagement of the clip. We're opening up visualization as well. And so we certainly hope that these steps will help to make this process easy. But while we do believe that this is a very strong competitive advantage to be able to re-engage and reopen, I think the fact that we are controlling the closure and we are able to allow the users to visualize the placement location before the clip is actually released would prevent a lot of false deployments or misplacements to begin with. So I think that's also the advantage that we need to keep in mind, and combined with the visualization. Nonetheless, it's certainly an area for the developments that we're focusing on.
Thank you.
Just to follow up on that point, how often does end user suggest or require that they be able to manipulate and reposition it? Is that a sort of very commonly voiced unmet need? That's number one. And the second question is there a price advantage to the U clips as compared to ones that are in current marketplace?
Let me make sure I understand your first question. So the question is either there's a need for users to actually redo these placements.
How common a problem
So
is that?
we are a fairly early stage company, right? So we don't have our clinical experience yet. However, if you look at the literature for the competitive devices, you will see that the rate of clinical failures ranges from 10 to 20%, defined as the clinical failure is defined as inability to actually achieve the intended result, right? Either to stop the bleeding or to close the perforation or whatever the case may be. So we believe that the need is pretty significant. Another piece of the challenge here is not just the actual failures that occur, but also the reluctance of a lot of users to take the device where the results are unpredictable, and in case of unsuccessful deployment, you may be facing a pretty substantial increase in your room time in order to remove it and replace it. So the ability to deploy in a more controlled fashion and the ability to remove actually adds a kind of a layer of security that the current devices are potentially missing. From the standpoint of the product pricing, we've been positioned ourselves in line with currently offered devices. We don't believe that with the advantages that we offer, we will need to be price competitive. I think being on par with the price structure that they offer should be adequate. And also, again, in the case of the misplaced clips, essentially you need to fracture the clip that you just placed and replace it with the new one. We're striving to avoid this and give the users the chance to redeploy the exact same clip. So that would be an additional advantage.
Thank you.
Question from the floor.
Great presentation. My name is Travis. I work for NOAA Medical. A couple quick questions. One is that what's the size limit on the wound that you can close? Number one. And number two, how often we see a lot of GIs actually not closing EMR or ESD wound? How often do they actually, is it clinically necessary to close the wound? And also on the pricing, you mentioned that on par with existing offering. Do you mean hemoclips or do you mean the over-the-scope clips?
I mean over-the-scope clips. So let me address the price question first. Clearly, a lot of smaller defects could be closed through the scope clips, and they are certainly less expensive than over-the-scope clips. However, as you start researching more complex cases, the cases with just a larger defect, it's not uncommon to see the illustrations, pictures, or videos of the cases where 4, 6, 8 through the scope clips are used to close a defect that's, say, 1.5 centimeters in size, right? And then you also deal with the question of continuity of these closures, right? Gap between the clips and so on and so forth. So certainly when you start adding the cost of multiple clips versus the cost of the over-the-scope clip, then it becomes advantageous to use a single clip pretty quickly. Your other question was the size of the closures. So in the ex vivo model, we were able to successfully close a wide open perforation that was 3 centimeters long and fairly wide, but it was kind of a straight line type of perforation, and we were able to close that. The design approach that we take to the clip, and also some of the concepts that we are developing with regards to the delivery system would potentially allow us to use larger clips. We also have some concepts for the delivery systems when the clip is at the angle relative to the scope that would help us to operate in smaller and more confined places, potentially working a little easier in the duodenum, for example, where you don't have room for the complete articulation. I think there was another part to your question. I'm sorry.
The upper limit, what do you think is the upper limit in terms of wound size?
Right, so currently we are targeting lesions that are up to 3 centimeters in size. That's our development target.
Great. Other questions from the judges?
Great presentation, Oleg. Thank you. You have an impressive entrepreneurial background. Can you speak to any prior companies and exits that you may have achieved?
So yeah, I've been a medical device entrepreneur for a number of years. There was a number of technologies that I developed that were acquired by Medtronic, actually including a single port surgical system. Then Medtronic is currently marketing HET system for treatment of hemorrhoids. Boston Scientific made an acquisition of a device a few years ago. I was one of the initial developers of that device. So all these acquisitions had a pretty substantial ROI.
Yeah, Oleg, like the other two finalists, very impressive. Congratulations on your progress. So you indicate that you have a family of products in your company and that they're synergistic. And there are obvious advantages with having a company that has a broad platform with more than one product, but it can create complexities too for investors looking for an exit. You've mentioned that there are a lot of strategic medical device companies who have expressed early interest in your company, but how do you plan to exit one by one with your product, with your products when they're all synergistic and they relate to each other?
There's a really strong synergy, and both on the technical ends, intellectual property side, as well as a clinical side between the Arida clip and the retraction device that I mentioned. Retraction remains to be a very needed part of any surgical intervention. And I think currently there's a number of devices on the market, but I don't think they really address the true need that exists for these type of devices for more advanced procedures. So I think these two devices will work together really well. However, IP question aside, they could be separated and they could exist as standalone devices, right? So they, from the technical and clinical reasons, while they're synergies, they don't really have to work and be produced by the same company. And so there may be interest from different strategics for each one of them. The other two accessories are, again, once they would be a great part of the portfolio of the devices for therapeutic endoscopy. They, again, would be just great complementary devices, but they don't have to be developed or sold together.
Great. Let's hear it for TheraGI.
Thank you.